In this video, we're talking about the updated best free hit team following the injury to Heung-Min Son. That has changed a lot, and I'm also going to be showing you a draft with more premiums than the other one, and more focus is on the starting 11. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and if you have any alternatives, I'll be happy to hear them. And there's no such thing as a perfect free hit team, especially this week, where if we're being honest, it doesn't look particularly great. But in some cases, if you only have 2 or 3 double game week players and you don't have Cristiano Ronaldo or Harry Kane and you want to keep Mohamed Salah, a free hit could actually be a really good choice this week. But let's get straight into the video. We're going to start with David De Gea in goal, and on the bench you'll be either Ben Foster or Bachmann depending on who you think will start. And to be honest, this shouldn't matter anyway because David De Gea will be starting and it's very unlikely for him to be benched for Ben Foster or Bachmann to come in. But David De Gea, I'd still go for him because I think despite United's troubles, especially defensively, I think he can actually get some good points this week with 2 favourable fixtures against Aston Villa and Brentford, and David De Gea can rack up a lot of saves and possibly even bonus points, and that should be enough to get a healthy score. There is Robert Sanchez, there is Hugo Lloris as well, but I think David De Gea is probably the best one. You can cover Brighton and also Spurs defensively with other options such as their fullbacks, which we'll talk about very soon. So I'd still go for David De Gea. Those 2 are also pretty good, but you want to be going for the double game weeks, especially with goalkeepers. They tend to deliver, and I think David De Gea is arguably the best of the bunch. In terms of the defence, we've got Cucurella, Reguilon, Trent, Lowton and Thomas, so a bit different to the last best free hit team I showed you. Now, Cucurella, Reguilon and Trent do survive, and speaking about Trent, he actually has tested positive for COVID-19, but he should be fine in time for Game Week 22, and yes, he doesn't have a double game week. You could go for Lowton instead in the starting 11, but I arguably would go for Trent over Lowton because in one game, Trent can outscore any defender, like I talked about in previous videos. With Reguilon, if you're not sure about him starting both games, or if you prefer Emerson Royal, you could just go for the Brazilian or maybe another Spurs defender. But even more reports are coming out now that Spurs are looking for another right wing back, and Conte wants to do even better than Emerson Royal. With Cucurella, you could also go for Lamptey, and I talked about him in my transfer tips video as well, and I think they're both quite evenly matched. Lamptey has more attacking threat, he's a bit cheaper, but at the same time he's more injury prone, and Cucurella is more nailed and can get more bonus points, but both are really good, and either would do very well on your team. The same goes for Robert Sanchez in goal, and then Matthew Lowton, he survives as well from the last team, and you could arguably start him over Trent. I probably would still go for the Liverpool defender, but Lowton is also pretty good. And then we have Thomas. He does have a knock currently, but if he does recover, I think Thomas could be a decent option, and you could also start the Leicester fullback as well. I don't trust Leicester defensively though, so he's just there as a bench fodder option. And yes, why would you really go for double game week players on your bench? Maybe you could just go for someone cheaper and then focus more on your starting 11. That's another possibility. But you'll see with the rest of the team who we have in store, and the midfield is going to look a bit different to what you've seen before. We haven't talked about Bruno Fernandes much this season. He's been very underwhelming in this campaign, but I've got him here. If you want to focus more on your starting 11 and stack your team with double game week players, I'd go for a team like this and go for Bruno Fernandes. Ideally, it would have been Heung-Min Son with some other premiums I'll be talking about later, but because Heung-Min Son is unavailable, I would go for the next best thing in terms of a premium who has a double game week with Bruno Fernandes. And I'm still a bit skeptical about this, to be honest, and you don't have to go for him. And ultimately, I'm going to be showing you a draft later on where the team is more balanced and it's a bit more similar to the last best free hit team I talked about, and I'd be a bit more inclined to go for some of those players instead of this. But Bruno Fernandes is still really good. He could actually have a very good double game week, but once again, we're talking about ifs, buts and maybes. And Manchester United attack, it's not something I'd be looking to double up on, to be honest. Then we've got Maddison and Tielemans, another double up in attack. I'm actually a bit intrigued by Tielemans. I think he could do really well this week, and in terms of the opponents Leicester have, he actually did very well the last time they met. Then we've got James Maddison, who's been very streaky, and like I talked about in my transfer tips video, I think he's a great option for Game Week 22, but not necessarily afterwards. Then we've got Trossard, another player of a double game week. One of those games does include Chelsea, but Trossard could still do very well nonetheless, and with the remaining 3 attackers, we're only going to have around 0.4 million left with this squad, which makes things a bit more difficult. Sissoko is the last one. He has a double game week, but he's just pure bench fodder, and even if he gets some points, he's just there to make up the numbers. To conclude this team, we have Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane and Emmanuel Dennis, and I think in most cases you want to be going for this front three. You could go for Joshua King instead of Dennis, but with Heung-Min Son out, with Salah out of the picture, I think Ronaldo and Kane are the two premiums you really want to have. Bruno Fernandes is just more of a luxury. And in terms of squad value, my squad value is 105.2 million, and I've only got 0.1 million remaining in the bank with this team. So this costs 105.1 million. Let me know if you can afford this, and also if you like this team. And in a little while, I'm going to be showing you another best free hit team, which isn't so focused on the starting 11, which doesn't have Bruno Fernandes, and which is more similar once again to the last best free hit team I showed you. A double up in United attack isn't something I would really advocate, to be honest, and that's what makes me a bit unsettled about this best free hit team. Harry Kane, I think, is arguably the best captaincy option. He's got a great record against Arsenal and Leicester. Emmanuel Dennis has the best set of double game week fixtures, so I would definitely go for a Watford attacker. If you want to go a bit different, you could also go for Patson Daka, who could do very well. He's got some impressive stats per 90, and his minutes are limited, to be fair, but he still looks pretty promising, and he could be available in time for Game Week 22, and this was according to Brendan Rodgers in his press conference. But I think this team looks pretty good overall, but I'm not sure about Bruno Fernandes. If this was last season's Bruno Fernandes, then I think this would definitely be the best free hit team. But Bruno hasn't been the same this season, so I'm going to now be showing you another best free hit team, which is arguably even better than this one. This team costs 104.8 million, so I have 0.4 million in the bank, as opposed to the first team, which only had 0.1 million in the bank. We've got Lucas Moura in here, that's a key difference. We've got Jota and Bowen, some single game weekers, and also the midfield is very balanced, but at the same time, you're going to have to bench one of these players, and that's what I don't like about this kind of free hit draft, as opposed to the other one, where it's kind of clearer who you would start, who you would bench, and vice versa. But this team is still similar in a lot of ways. David De Gea would start in goal, then you'd have Trent, Reguilon, probably Alonso, and then you could start Tariq Lamptey if you wanted to opt for a back four, but you want to be starting all three attackers for sure, that is without question, and then probably 3 or 4 of the midfielders depending on which team structure you want to adopt. But ultimately, looking at these best free hit drafts, I'm not really a big fan of any of them, and to be honest, playing the chip would be a result of you having to use it rather than you wanting to use it, because it doesn't look like a great week to free hit despite quite a lot of doubles for a lot of teams. And also you could maybe make some variations to this very own free hit draft, maybe get rid of Jota, bring in Bruno Fernandes, downgrade Trossard to a Sissoko, and maybe downgrade another defender, and you could go for something like that. You could go for Trossard or Bowen in midfield with Lucas Moura, Bruno Fernandes and James Maddison with the 3 forwards, and then with some premium defenders like Marcos Alonso, Trent and Reguilon. But ultimately, I'm not a big fan of these best free hit teams, to be honest, and the same goes for any free hit team you could make in Game Week 22. I might still play the chip because I'm in a position where I want to keep Salah. I've only got 3 double game week players, and it's just not looking really good at the moment. And also, a lot of these kind of Salah replacements, they're not really players I want to have for the long term, and that includes James Maddison. Heung-Min Son would have been a perfect substitute. I've still got until Friday to decide what my final plans are, but ultimately I might just end up taking a -4 or a -8 hit and save the chips for later on in the season. So things aren't really clear at the moment, and with the amount of postponements, any of these double game weeks could easily turn into a single game week, and that could be another advantage of this draft where, let's say for example, you opt to start Jota, Bowen and Trent, but their games get cancelled. You could have some players off the bench who could do very well, but at the same time, would you really want to be benching double game week players in the first place? Probably not. So that's the best free hit teams. Let me know what you think. This second one is very similar to the first one I showed you, but it doesn't have Son, and it has kind of distributed the money a little bit more. We've got Lucas Moura in there, and I'd actually be a bit tempted to start him if I do end up free hitting. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM. You can also join the Discord server and the league. The links are in the description below. Good luck with Game Week 21 and also Game Week 22. Let's see what it has in store for us. And yeah, the FA Cup was quite eventful, and that could have some repercussions later on in the season. But let's wait and see. With all these doubles and blanks, there's going to be so many to come. We've got a record number of postponements, and it makes FPL more difficult to navigate, and also a lot more luck is introduced into the equation. So you just got to prepare the best way possible and adapt to any situation. But thank you very much for watching, like I said before, and I'll see you next time.